from grown-ups. If the grown-ups are scared, if the grown-ups are acting like there is some kind of danger, especially the littler kids, the 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, they're going to panic. I've seen it. I've had kids not want to leave their house. I've had other children, it was reported to me by a woman who works with them, who are saying, if you sneeze, you're going to give me COVID and I'm going to die. Raymond, it is an unintended, I hope, side effect of this total lockdown of masks on children. We've got to weigh this in the balance. More and more therapists are coming out and saying, already anxiety and depression has exploded off the charts, and we're making it so much worse.
There have been several articles on what parents can do to help their children, particularly using a mask without causing fear or anxiety. Some of the suggestions that one article suggested were explain to your child why face masks are important using age-appropriate language, normalize face masks through play, give the kid a mask with their favorite stuffed animal, etc. Provide fun and colorful mask options. What do you make of these suggestions? And is this what parents should be doing for their kids in this moment? Is this the best approach?
I think by and large, Raymond, that will not work because kids are immersed in seeing grown-ups in a way they've never seen them before. What I would suggest is this. You tell the kids, you are not in any danger. You are fine. One of the reasons you're wearing those masks is to protect other people. You are fine. There's no danger to you. Now, if someone says, but that's false, of course there's danger. No, there isn't, Raymond. I saw a statistic just recently. 97,000 children were tested positive for COVID. You know how many died?
How many?
13. You have by far more chance of dying on your bicycle. For sure getting in a car. So it is perfectly okay to tell a child, you're in no danger, because the odds are virtually zero, and it's okay to say that.
I want to pick up on just what you're saying. This week it was reported that over 97,000 U.S. children tested positive for the coronavirus in the last 2 weeks of July, more than a quarter of the total number of children diagnosed nationwide since March. Now that's according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. But child deaths due to COVID-19 make up 0 to 0.5% nationally. Now, Dr. Ray, there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to kids going back to school. What are the psychological effects of keeping them out of school, as we're seeing in many states and many localities?
We just assume, Raymond, that this is a zero-sum game. In other words, if we tell the kids you have to wear a mask and you have to stay out of school, that they're just going to accept this. This shows no understanding of children. By and large, they have to go back to school. This is such a part of their existence. You know, one of the reasons for depression, a main reason for depression, people stop doing what brings them contentment and joy. If you eliminate that, if you take away those things from the kids that they've just taken as part of childhood, what is left? Isolation, break in routine, lack of contact with friends. All of this has to be weighed in. And what scares me is it's not being weighed in. And if someone says, well, look at the numbers, they're going up. Yes, but you look at the mortality rate. That is the number you look at. And children die from many, many more things than COVID.
Well, you raise a great point. Look, I know some college students and parents of college students who are telling me, in fact, I know one freshman, and she was telling her parents, it's so hard, we're going to orientation, we're all sitting apart, and I can't recognize or make any friendships because these people have masks over their faces. All I see is eyes. There's no way to recognize them from one event to another. How do you balance that, Dr. Ray? How do you balance the sociological needs, the societal, civil needs of kids and young people, and wanting to protect them from this disease?
I thought cooler heads were going to prevail, Raymond. I don't think so. I think it's only going to be a matter of reality. I'm an optimist. I think reality usually wins. So I think in time, more voices are going to say, given the legitimate level of risk, and that's how you define a phobia, by the way, the emotional reaction to something that has a very low level of risk. Given that level of risk, more voices in the medical community have to start speaking up and saying, if the grown-ups want to wear masks, we really need to think long and hard about mandating all the way down to preschool.
Yeah. Well, the European
Well,
Center for
point,
Disease.
Raymond.
Go ahead.
Bullying. You know, everybody's sensitive about bullying. You know what's happening? Kids are using the COVID as a bully technique. You're gonna die. Do you know that? You're gonna die. Your mom's gonna die. The Great Club.
Wow. That I was completely unaware of. Dr. Ray, the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control in a new document reveals that observational data from a number of EU countries suggests that reopening schools has not been associated with significant increases in community transmission. Closures of childcare and educational institutions are unlikely to be an effective single control measure for transmission of COVID, and such closures would be unlikely to provide significant additional protection for children's health, since most develop a very mild form of COVID-19, if any. Now, given this data that we're seeing coming in, not only from Europe, but from the CCD, or the CDC rather, what would your advice be to school administrators, local school boards?
First thing you said, Raymond, is you said, and you quoted this, most. I wouldn't say most. I would say almost none. Okay? I hear this on the news all the time. Well, usually the children are, if they're affected, for the most part, no. It's almost non-existent. So therefore, I would say, if you're going to use masks for kids all the way down to age 4, commit to study the effect for 1 month. How many times, get somebody in there and count how many times they touch their face. Little kids are going to touch their face 25 times. There's just no way they're not. If you have problems with attention span, can you realize what this is going to do to attention span? If you have trouble with discipline, can you imagine another element that you've introduced into the classroom in discipline? Teachers are going to become masked bullies. So I would suggest to the administrators, look at this for 1 month. Study it with open eyes and see if in fact it is bringing about the intent that you wanted.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Ray, we only have a minute. You mentioned something earlier about the bullying, COVID being used as a bullying tactic. The other thing I'm seeing in a lot of schools, the school administration is empowering kids with financial incentives to snitch on their fellow students for not wearing a mask, for mingling with too many people. They report each other, they video it, and they are rewarded for basically being the school's Gestapo, COVID Gestapo. Your thoughts on this? Is this a good place for kids to be psychologically with their peers? Or is this complicated and destroyed relationships, or will it?
I will sugarcoat my response. Absolutely disgusting. Totally disgusting. And it shows you the extremes that people will reach for when they're living under fear, a fear which really doesn't have that kind of basis in the statistics. I'm a researcher. I look at this and I see the numbers, and do they tell us this is what we need to do? In Europe, researchers call what Europe did a field study. A field study is wonderful. It's a great kind of study because you could look at real life and say, all right, I don't have to manipulate these variables. They're already doing it. Let's see the results. And I'm stunned at why we're ignoring that.
Dr. Ray, I wish we had another half hour. We'll leave it there. Raising Upright Kids in an Upside-Down World, Defying the Anti-Parent Culture by Dr. Ray Guarendi is available at bookstores everywhere and at EWTN's Religious Catalog. Dr. Ray, thanks again.